Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing Tokyo Sidekick by Japanime Games. This is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. This is essentially the all-in Kickstarter bundle from their most recent Kickstarter for the game, as you can see on the main box. This isn't quite everything. We do have a few extra things. There's this little storybook that tells you about the different heroes, and there's also a jigsaw puzzle that came with it. But for the sake of this video, we're pretty much going to stick to the board game itself. I might actually look at these pins at the very end just because they look cool. And to start with, as we usually do with big Kickstarters like this, we're going to begin with the mat. Alright, so here's our mat that replaces our game board. This is, as I said, a cooperative game. There's deck building involved in it. There's movement, as you can see, with the different spaces in Tokyo. There's also action selection. So a couple of different mechanics. Each player is going to be playing as both the hero and their sidekick. And you'll be moving around the city, fighting supervillains, also dealing with different encounters that get put out on the board. This track over here is the building track. Basically, if enough of Tokyo gets damaged, you lose the game. So there's a final spot here. If it gets there, you automatically lose. You have some spots at the top for cards. That's going to be where your villains are at. And then we have some spots down here. That's where the encounter cards are going to be. And then wound trackers go here. So a nice mat, not stitched edge, but still looks very nice. It is double-sided. I don't know if there's a difference, maybe player count for the different sides. But it looks very nice. Looks very well put together. The graphics seem sharp. So a good start with that. Alright, so let's get into the game itself, which I assume is why most of you are watching this. So this outer art is just a sleeve to denote a Kickstarter version of the game. It seems like a lot of the Kickstarter exclusives are going to be available after the fact. So when we get to things like the character pack or the promo boxes, fairly certain you'll be able to find those even if you aren't a Kickstarter backer. There is our box art, which looks pretty nice. You don't see a lot of these coffin boxes anymore, especially ones that are, the art is vertical like that. So, a few things here. This just looks like a comic, basically giving you the starting of the story. Here's our rule book. It is pretty hefty. So, all of our component lists here. We'll take a look at a comparison between the regular board and the upgraded playmat when we get to that. So player characters, as I said, you're going to be playing as both a hero and a sidekick. They each have their own little powers, and we'll see that more clearly when we get to the cards. Here's the player board itself. These are the actions you can take, these little gray spaces, and then you have an experience bar up here as well. This is sort of the market where you can go and buy upgraded cards and other abilities. Alright, so an explanation of all the heroes and their different sidekicks. Also, it looks like... Okay, nope, those are heroes as well. I thought those were the villains. So, rules of play, again, here are all your actions. A nice description of how all those work. Although most of the actions seem pretty straightforward, so I don't believe you'll be spending a lot of time in this rulebook. Explains how you fight villains. Villains basically have 2 stats. They have like an armor stat, and then they have a health stat. You have to attack their armor first, and then you can attack their health. To win the game, you have to defeat a certain number of villains, and then a certain number of supervillains. And then after that, the final boss, which I think is called a hazard, comes out, and when you defeat that, you win. So it looks like about half of this book is describing the different items, the different villains, the different heroes. So what seemed like a pretty lengthy rulebook to begin with is about half that size. So let's see. So that is basically your rules section, about 17 pages, and a little more than half of it is story. So not a ton of rules there, which again was sort of my first impression of this game. It looks heavy because there's so many elements, but they look pretty straightforward. Here is our regular board, and so the sides are per player count. You can actually see it on the regular board. They actually print it at the bottom, which is not printed if I remember correctly. Oh, it is printed on the mat as well. I just completely missed it. So I just want to see like a size comparison. If you're getting a bigger mat, and it is roughly the same size. There's a little bit more space beneath on the vinyl mat, but the board is essentially the same size. So there's no sort of size difference between the mat and the cardboard. It's just a matter of your personal preference. And that makes sense because these encounter cards are going to physically go out in different locations. So if you change the size of the board, these cards wouldn't fit correctly on their locations. Let's get into the rest of it. So here's our market. There'll just be different cards here that you can buy. Tells you how much experience they are. Here are player boards. So 4 players, 4 different colors. Here are your actions: move, charge, brush up, which is basically getting rid of cards; resolve, which is how you deal with encounters once you're on the location with them; attack, a symbol. You can either move your hero to your sidekick or move your sidekick to your hero; and then finally power up, which is you buying stuff. You're going to do these different actions with the cards you draw from your deck, which will be one of 3 different types of energy. There's power, speed, and concentration, and you'll have a starting deck that you'll draw from, which will obviously be pretty weak, and then you can upgrade those cards as you go along. And then of course up here you have your experience, which is how you buy those extra cards or extra abilities. So these are all going to be the same. Nothing on the back. Let's see what else we got here. So here are, let's look at these real quick because we just talked about them. These are our power cards. These are going to be fairly straightforward. I guess they're energy cards because only the red ones are power. So again, single value power cards. This is an okay card stock. It's thicker than normal card stock, but not like linen finished. So it's got that kind of plasticky feel to it. Not bad at all. I worry a bit that these are going to fit back in the box once they're sleeved, because they do sell sleeves for this game as part of the pledge. And you know, one of my pet peeves is a game that sells sleeves that don't then fit back in the box. And I have serious doubts that these are going to fit back, but we'll take a look when we get there. So again, 1s and 2s and all the different styles of energy. Depending on your hero, I believe you'll start with a 2 of a particular type. So if you're a strength hero, you'd start with a 2 power in your deck, and then the rest will be 1s. Concentration, 3 strength 1s. Okay, and then back here we have damage. Damage are all pretty much the same, I believe, and they basically just fill up your deck. So if you ever take damage, you add one of these to your discard, and like a standard deck builder, when your deck runs out, you shuffle your discard into your main deck, and these basically just become blanks. So when you take your turn, you're only going to have 5 cards. One of them is going to be a damage, because obviously you can't do anything with that card. So that's why damages are bad, as you might expect. So there's our power cards. Here are basically most of the other cards in the game. We have encounter cards, which are right here, but these are going to be all the heroes, all the sidekicks, all the villains, basically all the interesting stuff. So these guys with white borders, these are regular villains. So obviously you have artwork, villain name, their special ability, and then their armor and their health. And like I said, you have to attack their armor first. Once you're through their armor, you can attack their health. Once you take out all their health, they are defeated, and you remove them from the board. They actually get sent to the asylum, so you capture them, send them to jail, kind of like Batman, which hopefully they don't escape from, but maybe they will. And when you defeated 2 regular villains and 2 arch villains or super villains, that's when the final boss comes out. So just a quick look at all our different villains. If you have a particular interest in one, you're welcome to pause, but I'm not going to read through all of them. Then we have the ones with the gold backs. Oop, and messing everything up. The ones with the sort of gold backs are the nemesis, so those come out last. These are the super villains. So these are just going to be tougher versions of the villains. You see this guy's got a total of 41 damage you have to do to him, where that first villain we looked at had 13. So significantly more damage has to be done to them. And again, they all have special abilities. And then finally, the Nemesis. I believe you choose which one you're going to face. They suggest you start with King Kaiju. He's supposed to be the easiest one, and from what I've been told, this game is fairly difficult, so even the easiest Nemesis is going to be hard. Again, armor and health total, special abilities. He moves along a route, a specific route, which they actually list here at the bottom of the card. And then if he ever makes it to the last city, who I'm not going to try to pronounce, players are immediately defeated. And then we have Dokkan. He's got 2 armor values. And Fuji Sinjin. Alright, so those are our Nemesis cards. So you'll have a stack of these, and then you'll choose one of these to come out. And then here we have our hero cards, half of them, and then our sidekick cards. So again, your sidekick is a pair. You don't get to pick. Cool Guy has a specific sidekick. I don't know who he is offhand, and it doesn't seem to actually say on the card. So we probably have to look in the rulebook to see who his sidekick is. Or maybe you do pick. I could be wrong. Here are his special abilities. So he starts, it looks like, with this one. But these 2 have to be unlocked. There will actually be small cards that represent these abilities. And then his special ability there. And then this tells you he starts with a 2-value concentration card in his deck. So everybody's deck is the same except for this one 2-value card, which will be a little bit different. And I'll just go through these fairly quickly. Again, these are all the heroes. And then these are the sidekicks. Each sidekick also has a gadget slot. The hero will start with it, and then when they are in the same area, you can give it to them. Every character starts in a particular city, and the sidekick and the hero don't start in the same city. So that's sort of one of the first things you can do if you choose to. And that's interesting because she is also a villain, but she is a sidekick as well. Okay, so what else do we have? Some more cards here. So these are going to be, looks like, so these are our skill cards. Look at those real quick. So these are cards that have to be unlocked. They will start off on this gray side, and then for 3 experience you can unlock them. And now you have another ability. You have to pay 4 speed to use this ability. Some of them are passive, as you can see. And it's nice that they tell you what they are on this side, so you don't have to keep flipping them back and forth. You just keep them on the grayed out side because you don't own them yet. And then we've got some items, it looks like. So it looks like these are all specific to characters. So this is, okay, so this is the gadget that your hero will have, but can give it to the sidekick. And it looks like you don't actually start with it, you actually do have to buy it. So again, these are all just your different skills, different levels of each skill. Okay. We have some additional cards here. These look like just extra strength cards for when you're attacking with multiple characters, which is kind of interesting. So it looks like if you get specific characters on the same spot and attack at the same time, they do extra damage. Here are the incidents. So let's get these out of the way. And these are the starting incidents, which they actually say on the card. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to put out all the starting incidents. Looks like there should be more than 2. Let's see if we can find the rest of them. The red ones you're going to take out. Okay, so you're going to start with these incidents on the board, and this is a big part of the game because if incidents get left out on the board, they do bad things. Damage happens to the city. If the red ones are left out on the board, they actually get a token on them, and if a red one ever gets a second token, you immediately lose. So these are ranked by difficulty, so greens are the easiest, and then yellows and reds, or I guess I should say the most immediate are the reds. And it's going to tell you where to put it. So this one tells you to put this in Sugamo. I don't know exactly where that is. Somewhere on this map, but let's say it was here. So this would just go out on the board like that. And now this incident is at that location. If you go to that location, you can resolve the incident by paying something. This takes 1 power, and you essentially complete it. You remove it from the board. These incidents are going to be in this row down here, like so. And as the game progresses, there will be a token that'll move over. And as it moves over, it'll put that incident out. And then you'll move over again, put out another incident, so on, until it wraps back to the front. And on the front, there's a little red marker here. And when that happens, you'll do this end of round resolution. When you go to yellow, you're doing this resolution, which is pretty simple. You just put the encounter out on the board and you redraw your hand. This is per player. So when player 1 goes, you're going to resolve this yellow one, player 2, player 3. When player 4 goes, assuming you're playing in a 4-player game, or if you go back to the first player, you'll go to this larger one and something much more drastic will happen. So those are our incidents. Again, there's a large deck of them. The greens are the easiest, the reds are the most difficult. Again, you want to prioritize the reds because when you go to that red spot at the very beginning, that's when you'll put a token on the red ones that are out on the board. And if a red one gets a second token, you immediately lose the game. So you want to prioritize the red ones pretty seriously. But otherwise, you're just trying to get rid of these because for every one of these on the board, when you do the red resolution, the long resolution, it'll deal a damage to the city. And then we have a couple of these. These are specific to the final boss, so these won't get used until the very end. Alright, that looks like that's all of our cards. We've got some bases here. Again, for the different heroes, depending on what hero and sidekick you're playing. If you're the red player, you'll put them on here. And then we have our standees and our tokens. Not a lot of tokens. These are all little cardboard pieces. They're an interesting feel to them. They don't feel like regular cardboard, but they're clearly cardboard. Experience tokens for each player. You have, I don't know if that's the starting player token. This is for the, over here, the little encounter token that moves along. And then you'll have a token for damage to buildings. And then you have some other tokens to lock out certain abilities, basically say you don't have that ability yet. And then these are the tokens that'll get added to the red incidences, or red encounters. And if they ever have to, you'll immediately lose. Tokens there, and then we have a whole bunch of standees for all of our different heroes. Heroes are in blue, it looks like. And then, let me see if I can figure this out. So it looks like, okay, heroes are in yellow. He's definitely a hero. It looks like sidekicks are in blue. And then regular villains are in white. Super villains are in black. And then the sort of the end level nemesis guys are also in black, but they're obviously tad size larger. So if you buy the base game, this is what you'll get. You'll get these cardboard tokens, and there's nothing wrong with these. I like the colors on them, I like the art, but we also have the acrylic ones, which we'll go ahead and get to next. I'll clean all this up and then we'll look at the figures. Alright, so here is our acrylic standee set. Again, this won't come with a retail copy of the game, but I don't really have any doubt that this will be available if you do want to upgrade. Alright, so we have some of our plastic bases here. It looks like these are color coded, which is really nice. So again, we talked about with the cardboard ones that the heroes are in yellow. So we have yellow bases, sidekicks are in blue, the regular villains are in white, and then the super villains and the nemesis villains are in black. So it's nice that they color coded those. It makes it look a little bit easier on the board. Let's just take a quick look at a couple of these. So pretty straightforward acrylic piece. Let's see if there's a, yeah, so there's a, this color looks like it's slightly higher on this side, so I'm gonna base them that way. So there is our acrylic piece. You can see the way it looks on the board. It looks pretty nice. You can see the blue. It's a little bit vague, but not bad. And then here is a comparison with our cardboard piece. So the art is almost exactly the same. I can see, and I hope this isn't normal, but you can see, I don't know if you can see on the acrylic piece, that's not focusing very well. There we go. The acrylic piece, her right eye, looks like it has a scratch on it. That may have been me getting it out of the packaging. It doesn't look like it's part of the artwork because I don't see it on the cardboard piece. You can see that there. So that may have been me getting it out of the packaging. But, and then we have these little discs here as well. So say if I was playing with this character, right, I would attach this little, it's a little plastic ring around the base of it to show that I'm the yellow player and that's my character. So now, much easier to see that character on the board. Probably isn't necessary, honestly. I mean, I know which sidekick is mine. I'm going to have the card in front of me, so I don't really feel like I need this ring, and I don't know if it really adds to the value, so I probably wouldn't use that, but it is there. What else do we have? We have this guy here, who is a hero, so let's put him on a yellow base. Okay, so here's our cardboard and here's our acrylic. Just that see-through acrylic, it's something that games have been doing recently that I really like. I really like this as opposed to cardboard or 3D pieces, because it looks better than cardboard to me. I mean, that just looks a little bit better. You can kind of see through it. It makes the character look more like a piece of the game instead of just a piece sitting on a board. But it doesn't have the cost of a full 3D figure. If they had sold this figure set as full 3D figures, I mean, it would cost you probably $100. Here's one of our bad guys. So this one, I think, highlights just how good these acrylics can look because there's nothing down here, right? It's just a void. In the cardboard, you don't really get that, right? It's hidden by the fact that it's got this bright white background. But as an acrylic piece, it looks really cool, at least to me. And then, let's see, what was the final guy I pulled out here? This little Shogun looking guy here. Again, and especially for a character that's this dark, the acrylic really shows off the color as well. So I like these a lot, but this is also one of those components that I enjoy particularly, and it is an added cost, so it's going to come down to your personal preference. But those are the standee figures, and then let's look at a few of the other things we got. Alright, so now we have a few little promo boxes that, again, should be available after the fact. You should be able to find them. These may be a little more difficult to find than the character packs, but let's go ahead and take a look at them. We did get two of the same one, which I don't know if it was intentional. Go ahead and look at both of them and see if they got the same stuff in them or if they're slightly different. So we've got some additional heroes. So we've got World Creator here, it's like a gamer, the Transporter, and then Sidekicks for those two. We've got the ability cards. For those two heroes. No gadget card. And then these actually come with the acrylic standee versions. So no cardboard in these. These are purely acrylic versions of these heroes and sidekicks. So yeah, these acrylics, I really like them. I said I like the acrylic figures in general. Companies do them slightly differently. This one is, on this side you can tell that this is pure acrylic, where on this side you can actually feel the texture of the actual print of the artwork, which is why I probably nicked that one earlier, where there was a little mark on the eye, because you need to be careful of, particularly about this side of this acrylic mini. This says it's a scenario expansion. So this is a mini expansion scenario for Tokyo Sidekick. Oh, and this one is going to use like an app. Okay. So you're going to have to... Tokyo Sidekick doesn't normally use an app, but with this scenario you're going to have to log in and use an app. We do have, it looks like, some new characters though. So this is a bad guy, but it's specifically part of the scenario. That looks like a bad guy as well. Nope, that is a hero. Or this is a sidekick actually. And then that is a bad guy. Alright, and then we've got both acrylic and cardboard pieces for this promo set. So even if you don't have the acrylics, you could use the cardboard. And see, it's the same on this one. Like, this is the art. You can feel the art on this side. There's a difference to the texture, whereas this is just pure acrylic. So you got to be a little careful when you're on this side of the board, or this side of the acrylic, about doing damage. Alright, so the only other thing really that we're going to take a look at, besides putting everything back in the main box, which we'll see how that goes, are these pins. So this is not a component of the game. This isn't, you know, metal standees or anything. These are just pins that they made for some of the characters. If you ever go to a convention and you go by Japanime games and you have a particular interest in one of these characters, this is like the pins you'd find them selling at the booth for these different characters. And obviously, having just unboxed the game, I know next to nothing about these guys, except he looks really cool. But again, little things that are available. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean all this up and then sleeve everything, because again, they sold it with sleeves. And then we're going to see what we can fit back in the base box. Alright, so getting everything back in the box. First of all, I'm very happy that the fact that the cards do fit sleeve back in the box. I had to make a few adjustments. I'll put a few cards in here that would normally be under here, just because this spot does not have a finger well, which is, I don't know why they did that, because they have finger wells in every other spot for cards, but this one does not, and it makes it kind of a hassle to get the cards out of there. So I moved them into here because I did need the extra space anyway. Since the sleeves do add volume to the cards, they were just a little too tall for that spot. But otherwise, the cards fit back in the organizer, which I love. I can't tell you how many games I've bought that have sold sleeves with the game, and then the game doesn't fit back into the organizer with the sleeves. which means either I gotta unsleeve everything and play with the game unsleeved, or I've gotta throw out a perfectly good organizer. And this is a nice organizer. I especially like the foam up here for the figures. They just slide in like so. And they just, oh, that one lost its base. They just help protect the figures a little bit more. And again, these figures just snap into these bases, so that's not a problem. But as you can see, you can't quite fit all the figures into this very nice foam system. I've got about a dozen that are either too large for the foam, like this guy. I can't fit this guy into the foam. He's too tall, and he would stick out and the box would be setting against him. But I do have this spot over here to put them, and that's where I'll be putting all these guys as well. So not quite all of them fit into the foam, but enough of them fit that it feels nice. It's a nice little addition. I do wonder if the retail box is going to be a different size to exclude this, because I don't feel like you need this with cardboard. You could use this with cardboard and just take out the foam and put all your cardboard tokens in there, and that'd be great.